Pain day and future pacing are dead in 2025. According to Google, trust is at its lowest point, and these vanilla methods, they don't get skeptical prospects to move forward or pull out their wallets anymore. Therefore, you're sitting there thinking like, why are people not buying from me anymore? Or maybe you're just really ugly, like that ugly fish that trended on TikTok and people can't stand watching you. You know, I'm just kidding. However, here is the truth. 35 of my students hit 10K months in the last 8 months using one system I've been secretly using to make 20K months, working part-time while traveling around the world and all that good jazz, you know. So in the next 10 minutes, you'll understand exactly how to plan a buying identity or prospects, the same method that took Noel to 10K months and Mark to 20K this month. So unlike Guru's teaching you these sim tactics, promising 10K months in 3 months, I'm showing what actually works that gets people desperately wanting to buy from you in today's trust recession. So let's get right into it. So before I get into all the word for word tracks, the scripts like you perverts want, I'm going to talk about what I actually see in the marketplace, and then we'll get into that, you know. So what I constantly see in this marketplace right now is closers are doing this future pacing, pain digging, they're perfectly executing, but they're getting destroyed on calls in 2025. And you think you've done everything your sales crews told you, but you're left thinking why it's not working. And this is the reality though. The reality is, and even back in 2024, these like pain digging or like future pacing, they still worked and people bought. But now it's 2025. Like prospects are way more aware, you know. The exact method that closed deals is ending up with objections like, I'll think about it, or I know what you're trying to do. And it's not only happening to you, it's happening at all experience levels right now, where someone's a complete newbie, someone's an experienced closer, and they've made 50K plus per month before, or everyone in between. It doesn't matter. It's showing up in all experience levels right now. And this is coming from someone who has done 1,200 plus call reviews last 8 months for my students. And we got to think about this, like, why is this happening? Well, straight up, it's the market saturation. One of the main reasons because of the market saturation. So think about it, you know, 2020 to 2023, did you guys even know about what Facebook ad agencies were, or day trading, e-com, Amazon FBA, high ticket sales were? Not many people knew about these methods right now. But 2025 reality is different, because even my Korean high school friend who doesn't speak English, he knows who Iman Ghazi, whoever it is, right? And has watched his videos, even bought a course from him, you know? So what this means is that everyone has watched some sort of webinar, sales letter, everyone has gotten a call and been asked the same questions like, hey, what's your biggest challenge, what's your biggest goal, or whatever, you know, right? And these traditional methods are being overexposed, and a trick shown is a trick blown. Like, you wouldn't watch magic if you already knew the trick, you know? And what's even worse is that everyone's still doing the same thing. The result is every closer's grandma is now using these methods, and your prospects know that you're following a script. Your prospects know you're trying to manipulate them, you know. And so therefore, authentic, genuine conversations is impossible now. So let's talk about what actually works, and we'll get into the scripting and everything, you know. So what's actually working in 2025 is identity selling. I call it the mind bender method. Well, what is identity? Identity is someone who believes they are at their core. And I use identity to sell because the mind bender method is what me and my 35 students that are hitting 5 figures months have been secretly using, you know. So why does it work so well? There are 2 studies that back it up. So there's this thing called the cognitive dissonance theory. When someone adopts a new identity, acting against it creates psychological discomfort, forcing them to make decisions that align with who they now believe they are. 90% of the influence of the world is weaponizing cognitive dissonance. One good example is if you don't go to college, if you don't get a good job, if you don't get married at a certain age, like you're considered a loser from a society standpoint, which we're going against. That's why you're watching this video here right now. But that is like a huge, massive psyop, and that is cognitive dissonance, because what they want to do is they want to plan an identity saying you're just gonna go through the same thing what everyone's done, because that's what everyone's done. That's what's normal, you know. So no wonder people are living in fear, because the moment they try to get out of that, they're feeling judged now, because they feel like they have to fit in the box, and that's cognitive dissonance over here. And there's another study called the Consumer Identity Research, where Belk said high ticket purchases are identity statements where people buy who they want to become, not just what they need. It's like someone buying a supercar, right? Why would someone buy a supercar when they can buy a Hyundai? It does this exact same thing, takes someone from A to B. Well, because someone who buys a supercar, they want to associate the identity, the premium identity of a supercar to their own life, straight up. So this is why it's dominating. The Mindbender method crushes prospects' limiting identity. It subliminally creates a buying state and forces decisions consistent with the person they aspire to become, and it crushes objections before they even come up in the call. But the most important thing is prospects haven't been conditioned to resist it yet. Like, selling based on identity is still a rare trait right now, rare skill set. So what is identity selling? What is the Mindbender method? The Mindbender method philosophy is this. It's just, why are you selling yourself short when you know you can be more? That's the mentality when you get on the call with a prospect. And the reason why this works really well is because why are you selling yourself short is a challenger statement. I'm not going to get into details, but there's a book called The Challenger Sale where there's 5 different sales archetype. Number 1 sales archetype would be the challenger, and they outlast every single sales archetype out there. Plus, they outperform 40% more than an average salesperson. So why are you selling yourself short is a challenging statement. When you know you can be more is an identity statement. So how do I actually utilize identity? Well, the traditional sales structure is this. So you build a report, right? And then we get into the situation, and don't worry, I'll get into the word for word, by the way. We get into the problem digging, right? Solution, future pacing, consequence, pitch, right? And then if you do a really bad job, you're gonna objection handle. But the Mindbender method is this. You get a tangible outcome first. You get a tangible outcome, you get a problem, and therefore you expose beliefs, you expose objections, and you plan a new identity to crush that objection before they show up, and therefore you consequence on the identity, and then you pitch. And then once you did a really good job, you're gonna get what? Paid in fulls. That sounds too good to be true, so I'm gonna get into the word for word on why it exactly works so well. So the traditional approach is something like, hey, report building, like, hey, how's your day going, right? And situation, tell me about your business, tell me about what you're doing right now for a living, right? And you get a problem like, hey, what's your biggest challenge? Problem digging, how does that make you feel that you suck, right? Solution, like, what's your ideal criteria when it comes to what I sell, the training or program? And then you future pace, imagine making 20K months, right? And then the consequence, like, what happens if you don't fix this? And you talk about the pitch, and the pitch, like, here's the price, 3 pillars, the traditional whatever, But the thing is, this works to a certain degree, but you're not gonna make that 10K, 20K, 50K a month with this method, to be honest. So this is the identity influence approach, the Mindbender method. So what I do is I get a tangible outcome first. So what do you want to achieve personally with their help? And once I get that, now I get into the problem. So why do you feel like you haven't achieved that yet? A problem for me is just simply asking someone why they haven't got the results yet, because that exposed what? That exposed their beliefs around the problem. Like, for example, if someone says, hey, like, if I ask someone, hey, why do you feel like you haven't been able to get out of your job and escape the 9 to 5? A lot of people say what? Oh, I'm afraid. I'm afraid is what? It's a fear objection, right? So I expose a belief. Then I can just ask, hey, why are you tolerating that? I know you're afraid, but why are you tolerating that though? Is that what you deserve? Right? So I straight up challenge the person, crush an objection over there. And I plan a new identity, right? In order for you to leave the job and make 20K a month, who do you need to become? Who do you need to step up to overcome that belief, to overcome that fear? Right? I address the objection on the spot, and then I consequence the identity. So I consequence like, what happens if you never become that person? What happens if you never become that son that retires his mother and his mother works till 84 years old? So this is just a glimpse of what I teach, and I'm gonna get into more details in my next video, so stay tuned. If not, this imaginary hamster will die.